Hey, it's Mike Brennan, and we're back with another MITech TV. Hopefully, a great show. We got a great lineup. Gary Erickson is back with us again, and he's going to be talking about C-level hiring and trends like that. His company, Executive Search Partners, is focused primarily, I guess it'd be safe to say, on chief information officers and chief information security officers. But I know you also place a lot of other folks, right, Gary?
Yes, we do. We get good customers who say, "Hey, you did a good job with this senior IT person. Can you help us fill this other position in other areas?" We just completed a director of training. We're working on an HR manager and a controller up in Montreal. It's just sort of with the same company that we put a director of IT into recently.
Okay. So let's start off with what is the market right now for hiring senior level IT executives?
Well, it's. I think on a previous show, I predicted that we would see a September surge. It turns out that it wasn't a surge. Wasn't a tidal wave. It wasn't even a. It was a wavelet, if you will, of increased opportunity or increased searches. We ended up with some. We're a little bit higher in the number of searches we have going on. So our conclusion has been that people are still a little worried about the economy. They're not quite hiring as at the pace that they would typically hire in a good September. We still think that the economy is in good shape, that the inflation has come way down. Maybe that'll translate into better hiring coming back in February, because we're getting to the end of the 2023 hiring season. Thanksgiving's coming up next week, and usually things slow down during the holidays. And January and early February, people are working on budgets before they start loosening the purse strings again. We hope. So
Yeah,
the
I
market
know.
is a little slow.
I know that it's virtually impossible, or it seems like it's impossible to get a hold of anybody from about Thanksgiving until the couple of days after New Year's. And I would imagine that's the same with IT hiring. Well, so since the market is a little bit slow and you expect it to start heating up after the first of the year, what advice do you have for candidates? What should they be doing now?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the first thing you should do is, if you're thinking about looking for another job, start thinking about what do I need to do to get ready to really launch myself into the job search when maybe jobs start opening up in February. So what do you have to do to get ready? Well, we suggest you start with developing success stories. Going back over your career over the last 5 or 10 years and write down some of your top accomplishments. And if you're a senior IT person, these should be business oriented accomplishments. What did you do for the business and how did you do that? And try and, if you can, keep those success stories down to 2 or 3 sentences. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you've got to write your resume. And there are some things that people should avoid on their resumes. We see resumes with way too many non-relevant, with way too many irrelevant accomplishments. We see resumes that don't include complete information. For example, they don't describe the company. Somebody says, "I work for XYZ company." What does that tell you about the company? Nothing. You got to know the business they're in, the size of the company, the amount of sales they have, maybe the number of locations and the number of employees. So make sure you put the company down. You got to describe your job. A lot of people launch right into their job and say, I did the following things. Well, what was your job? Were you the head of IT? Who did you report to? How many people did you have working for you? Were there any key technologies or challenges that you were undertaking as the head of IT? And so you got to describe your job. We see a lot of resumes where people don't do that. And then finally, if you're looking for a senior IT position, your accomplishments need to be business oriented. We see a lot of resumes from IT candidates where they talk about how they implemented a new network. Okay, that might be great, but why did you do it? Was the network failing? Did you increase sales? Did you reduce costs? What was your business reason for implementing whatever you did? More importantly, your accomplishments should show things like, what did I do for the business in helping them engage with customers better? Maybe better manufacturing techniques, better distribution capabilities, faster closing. There's a whole bunch of things that you could talk about how you help the business. And I could keep going on, Matt. I'm waiting in case there's any other follow-up questions to the
No, you're
first
on a
two.
roll there. Go ahead, go for it.
Okay, good. The next thing you got to do is you got to network with people. And what I mean by networking is take your list, create I call it a marketing plan, but maybe a spreadsheet. Here are all the people that you know that you could talk to, and start talking to them. Ask for advice. Say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Here's my background. Who do you know? And you want to get from them names of other people. You want to get maybe possible recruiters you could contact, and you want to know names of maybe target companies. These are all getting ready for your job search, getting your name out there, getting knowledge about what the market is like. Who are you going to contact? How are you going to contact them in the future? And then when you start networking with people, take the recruiters, take the new people that your friends have given you, and ask them the same kind of question. So by the time you get to February, maybe you've got 30 or 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 people that you've been networking with. Stay in touch with them. Let them know you're still working on your job search. And maybe one of those people in the network will come up with a job position for you. So get your success stories, get your resume ready, start yourself networking. And then,
and I noticed, Gary, I noticed that you also said maintain the network. So how does one maintain a network? What are the steps you would take there? How often do you contact these people without, you want to stay in contact, but not seem a pest at the same time, I would think, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting when talking to IT people. I mean, you guys who are journalists are used to talking to people, and you're outgoing, charismatic people. But a lot of us IT people were people who, we got into it because we could keep our head down and program, right? We didn't have to talk to people. But so you have to talk to people, you have to network with them, and then you stay in touch with them. People and anybody who's willing to help you with your job search is interested in how you're doing with your job search. So keep them up to date. All you need to do is maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, send a very short email. I appreciate the time you spent with me. I want to give you a brief update on how my job search is going. And you're doing that because they're going to be interested in how you're doing. You're thanking them for their help in some way. But the other most important thing is that you are letting them know that you're still out there in case they spy an opportunity that they might want to pass on to you, that they might not have passed on to you because maybe they've forgotten you, or maybe they thought you got another job because they haven't heard from you since the first time you talked to them.
One of the things you also said in earlier shows was that why you think you're the right person for that job. I mean, that should be really at the top, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things you can do is you can look for jobs on LinkedIn and Indeed and Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter, and you can see positions you're interested in, and you want to apply to them. The problem in applying to any of these kind of jobs is lots of other people are applying to them, and so you've got to find a way to distinguish yourself from the rest of the group, and that is look at the job description, and we recommend that you write down 5 reasons why you're a fit for that position. And if you can't come up with 5 good reasons why you're fit for the position that fit the job description and what you know about it, don't apply. I mean, if they're looking for like a healthcare CIO and you have no healthcare background, don't apply for the job. Nobody's going to talk to you. Why is that? Because there's going to be a lot of well-qualified, 100% match to that job requirement people applying for the position, and there's no reason for somebody to reach outside the industry, for example, to get somebody that maybe it doesn't on paper look like they're fully qualified. So only apply for positions you're fully qualified for. Write down 5 reasons why you think you're qualified, and use that 5 reasons when you contact the company. Here's why I'm a good fit for the job.
All right. So you also recommend setting up positions alerts on websites like LinkedIn and Indeed. Is that, I mean, it's, a lot of people say, well, it's not, what you know, it's who you know, but websites like that really are valuable to the job search, you think?
Well, there's 3 ways you're going to find jobs, and the first one is who you know. It's called networking, right? And you get to meet people, and you want to get your network. The most 80 to 90% of jobs come that way, directly or indirectly, where somebody recommends you to somebody who's doing the hiring, and so you can get ahead of the curve from all the other candidates because somebody has personally recommended you. So recruiters, so networking is number one. Number two and number three are recruiters and online job postings. And to maximize your chance of seeing what's out there, look at the setup alerts on LinkedIn and Indeed, and see who's hiring. And the first thing you should do is say, oh, wait, I know Fred Smith, who's over at this company. I'm going to contact him because I see they posted for a CIO. I think I'd be a good fit, so I'm going to ask Fred to present me for him. But if that doesn't work, then you've got to apply online. And make sure you include the 5 reasons why you're a good fit for that job when you apply online.
What about salary requirements? Sometimes they read, I'm obviously, since I'm self-employed, I don't look for jobs, but I do read those. And sometimes they'll say, give us guidance on what you're looking to make. To me, that's like the beginning of negotiation. I generally start out much higher than what I really want because I know I'm going to have to negotiate. Is it the same thing with salaries?
Negotiating is very, very much of an art, and legally depends on the state, but generally we follow this as a guideline. We cannot ask candidates what they're looking for, but we can ask them, what are you hoping to make? Wow. And generally people go from where their last position was and what their economic requirements, and maybe they add 10 to 15% on top of what they were already making. This is what I'm looking for. And that's what we generally present for a candidate. Now, if you're looking for $300,000, for example, and somebody has posted a job for a director of IT at $200,000, nobody's going to make that jump. But if the job says range of job is 200 to 225, and you're looking for 250, as an example, go ahead and apply. They might be able to bump it up by a little bit. So I don't know if that completely answered your question, though.
No, that's I know it's kind of hard to figure out. It's kind of whatever the market will bear, right?
Well, there's a general. I can tell you for size of company and industry and location in the country, generally what the salary ranges are for most senior level IT positions, based upon what people have been paying for those kind of positions.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you can tell us about this, but what are some of the more interesting positions that you're working on filling?
Well, we've got 2 CIO level positions. We've got a director of IT for, actually, it's really, as I think about answering your questions, it hit me that both of them are for companies that are owned by venture capital companies who are growing rapidly by acquisitions. And they're looking for somebody who's willing to come in and not only do the general IT things, standards and organization and run the railroad, but also can help due diligence on acquisitions, can help with the longer term strategy as we acquire these companies and integrate them. What are we going to be able to do with IT to help get more value out of these acquisitions? So we've got 2 like that. We've got a director of IT for a company that's in the building safety products arena, and we've got a director of IT and that company's about $500 million, and then we've got a director of IT for a $1.5 billion distribution company.
Can you say what part of the country they're in?
One's in Chicago and one's in Detroit.
Ah, well, there you go.
So, and they're both really, really interesting companies, and we like the people that we're working with in those companies. And they should be a lot of fun because they're growing. It's a little different than coming into a company that's just gone through an auto strike and people are trying to cut costs.
Yeah, so we have a few of those right now. So, all right, so cool. Now you got everybody all slathered up. They want to reach out to you to go for those jobs. How do they do that there, Gary?
Well, our website's got all of our contact information with all the executive search partners on it. You can pick who you maybe one of us. We got email addresses and phone numbers. It's www.execsearchpartners.com.